Welcome back to meeting number 39 of the Standing Committee on Science and Research. We are meeting today to have a briefing session with the President of the National Research Council. I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of the witnesses and all the members. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either Floor, English, or French. I would like to remind witnesses that the committee members may ask questions in either French or English. If you will need interpretation, please take a moment now to prepare your earpiece and select the listening channel you need in advance to take full advantage of the time allocated for questions and answers. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. And I would like to welcome our witnesses for today. We have witnesses joined from National Research Council of Canada. We are joined by Mr. Mitch Davies, the President. Welcome. We are also joined by Dr. Julie Lefava, Vice President, Emerging Technologies, Dr. Ibrahim Yimmer, Vice President, Transportation and Manufacturing, and also Dr. Shannon Quinn, the Secretary General. Welcome to all the witnesses. You will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks, and then we will get to the round of questioning. Floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, for the invitation to appear today before the committee on behalf of the National Research Council of Canada to discuss our mandate and activities. I'd like to begin by acknowledging NRC's work takes place across Canada on the unceded traditional and current territories of the First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. We recognize Indigenous peoples have been innovators since time immemorial. We understand that innovation is enriched by diverse ways of knowing. Le CNRC a été créé par la loi sur le Conseil national de...
The NRC, since its founding in 1916, has played a central role in building and contributing to Canada's research and innovation system. Its mandate is to promote scientific and industrial research that are of interest to Canada.
The NRC has played a central role in building and contributing to Canada's research and innovation system. Over the decades, the NRC has helped launch several major Canadian science organizations, including the Canadian Space Agency, the Federal Granting Council, and others. The NRC has produced breakthroughs and solutions that have improved Canadian lives and supported industrial development in many sectors, which form a significant part of our economy today. Our work today continues to play a role in the industries of tomorrow, in AI and quantum, life sciences, and advanced manufacturing, to mention a few. As Canada's largest federal research and innovation organization, the NRC advances scientific and technical knowledge, supports business innovation and industry development, and delivers on areas of national priority. For the fiscal year 25-26, the NRC's total expenditures were over $1.9 billion, while total revenue was $222.3 million, reflecting strong collaboration with industry and government partners. Chaque année, nous sondons nos clients et partenaires.
Every year we survey our clients and partners. In our most recent survey, 95% of respondents said that the NRC had helped them to achieve results. Our research covers 4 key areas defined in our strategic plan for 2024 to 2029. Digital and quantum technologies, health and biofabrication, climate change and sustainability, and support for basic research.
Our work supports issues that we hear about, that Canadians are interested in, of course, such as housing, defense, quantum technologies, and artificial intelligence, among many. Through the Industrial Research Assistance Program, which has been in existence for over 75 years, the NRC supports Canadian SMEs in developing new technologies, products, and services that drive innovation and industrial development. NRC IRAP supports close to 10,000 businesses every year, sustaining over 13,000 jobs across Canada. IRAP consistently supports businesses that go on to achieve strong revenue growth, job growth, and the creation of long-term value. The NRC's scientific expertise, long-standing collaboration with the Department of National Defence, and strong connections to SMEs position us to support Canada's defence industrial strategy. The Government of Canada committed $996.2 million to the NRC to support defense, research, and innovation initiatives, such as the Drone Innovation Hub and NRC's IRAP Defense Industry Assist Initiative, which will help SMEs develop defense and dual-use technologies. Plus d'un siècle après sa création, le
More than a century after its founding, the NRC continues to advance national priorities in research and innovation, thereby contributing to Canada's prosperity and sovereignty in a complex world.
colleagues look forward today to answering the questions of the committee. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. And with that, we will get into our first round of questioning of 6 minutes each, and we will begin with MP Baldinelli for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here this morning. Mr. Davies, thank you in particular. It's good to see you again. My first question is going to evolve around the Comprehensive Expenditure Review Program. And the NRC's 2026-2027 departmental budget mentions that the NRC is planning the following spending reductions, about over $95 million in 26-27, $127 million 27-28, and over $190 million in 28-29. And further, it's anticipated that these spending reductions will involve a decrease of approximately 510 full-time equivalent jobs by 28-29. I mean, these job reductions are taking place. When will they be impacted? I mean, is it over the course of the next several years, or are you starting those job reductions now?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. So the reductions at NRC in terms of headcount have already underway. We provided notices to 188 employees some time ago, early this year. In fact, we're far enough along that we've also been able to find 24 positions for some of those people in other parts of the council, which we're grateful to be able to do. And some people have begun to exit the NRC as a consequence of that first phase. We will proceed over the course of the next year to provide notice and information to the remaining employees that will be affected as part of our overall 510 reductions.
Mr.
And
Davies,
then those reductions will take place over the
Is it
the
in
preceding
any
fiscal
particular
years.
area? Like what specific jobs are at risk or have been lost? In certain departments, can you detail where those job losses have taken place?
So there's two significant areas that are important in the way we've approached the reductions. First off, we've used our strategic planning, which had already been well underway, was quite robust across the council, to make clear decisions of areas of research which are strong and have merit, but may not be at critical mass and may not be as aligned, of course, with our plan. And we've made decisions to actually reduce and focus our areas of research so we can have maximum impact. So we want research excellence to persist at the council, so we've had to make some choices. That's meant areas of work that council had perhaps carried for many years have been discontinued. We will also be reducing our overall corporate internal services, providing efficiencies. That'll be a very significant part of our reduction program. And overall, our purpose here is really to focus on what unambiguously the country's priorities are, to use our strategic planning, which is quite robust, to come up with solid answers on what we should offer as an organization.
Could you share with
going
us like
forward.
specific departments like within the NRC that are impacted the most, like the job complements within certain areas? Like what research bodies are being particularly impacted? And if you could share that with the committee, that would be good. But I also want to go on to the departmental plan when it talks about the use of artificial intelligence. And you mentioned in the plan to strengthen the internal capacity, the NRC is deploying enterprise-grade generative AI tools to improve efficiency. And so what companies is NRC working with on AI?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Madam Chair. We have a significant deep capability in AI. We've been working in AI for over 30 years. So our approach was to unlock the internal capability of our research center, actually to drive what our AI strategy for adoption would be. So, and I don't think every organization is positioned as we are with the amount of expertise we have. What we've done is built an approach to it that's very responsible, which means we've built an environment for using AI that's at the protected B level in terms of security so that our information is staying on our own systems. It's not going out to the internet generally, and we're being able to ensure that we're adhering to government information security, the standards people would expect of us in using AI. The other thing is to build tools that actually fit our role, because we're in the research business. We have a lot of internal data that needs to be used to train AI models for very specific purposes, and we have a lot of experts that can unlock that opportunity. So that's what we describe when we're talking about using our own approach to AI, which means you bring in the models, but then you build your own internal usage, which is very carefully designed so that we're not going out, of course, generally.
But
to
it's
the
those
internet.
models you're bringing in. Are they Canadian companies that you're using? For example, a Cohere? What companies are you partnering with?
We do work with Cohere, know them well. We work with them on projects in a responsible AI area, for example. But quite frankly, you need to make available AI models from a variety of sources to have a robust approach. The question is, how do you make them available to your workforce so that you're also responsible where information goes and how you're deploying those models? The other thing is you have to add expertise to the use of the models because they obviously have.
In the short time I have,
issues.
quickly,
Yes.
if you could also share with us who those AI models are with the committee. But also, I mean, the government will be launching its AI strategy later on today, on my understanding. Did the NRC have any input into the consultation process as they were seeking input from the public and stakeholder groups? Did they also seek input from the National Research Council in the development of its AI strategy?
Within the ISED portfolio, obviously, we work closely with many officials in the department that are involved in the formation of such strategies. So I don't think it would be a case where NRC is seeking to be involved as a matter of public consultation. I mean, we are positioned to be able to contribute our capability, our advice. We work very closely with our colleagues in ISED on all matters related to AI, responsible AI.
Sorry for interrupting. Time is up. For MP Baldinelli, maybe you can come back in the second round, and we will now proceed to MP Nathan for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you, and I wanted to thank all the witnesses here today. My first question is, Canada has made progress in increasing participation by women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But representation remains uneven in certain advanced research and technology sectors. So what has the NRC learned about attracting and retaining women in research and scientific leadership positions, particularly in fields such as advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and emerging technologies? And what do you see opportunities for future progress or growth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question is very important because obviously we aim in our plan for inclusive innovation. That means our workforce reflecting Canada, and also the way we work reflecting diverse communities and different interests in Canada. Those two things are fundamental. I can report to the committee that as far as the availability of women in the fields that we would recruit for our expertise, we exceed the labor market availability at this current time at the NRC, and that's been the case for some time. And I don't want to say that as if that means things are over. We also have to look at how people move, how their careers develop, and keep a very close eye on different communities as they experience the NRC and the workplace in the NRC. So it's very important. We have over 90 nationalities in the NRC's workforce, very diverse workforce, and this is something built up over many, many years of our recruitment in various fields. I would also say we have very strong representation of women in very, very serious areas of engineering as well as science at NRC, because we have a lot of engineering talent as well as scientific talent. This is something that contributes greatly, and you'll see many of our experts that we're profiling regularly in various fields of construction research, a lot of very, very significant and very well accomplished women that are playing key roles in working in research in areas of construction where, in fact, even that industry itself may well be working on representative. But I think our research team is actually very strong and well reflecting the Canadian population and the talent that's available. And we're seeing that in the recruitment we're undertaking. We have astoundingly high quality people from all walks of life, diverse backgrounds that are coming to want to work at the organization. We're very pleased with that.
Thank you for that. And in your opening remarks, you did mention innovation is enriched by diversity. And in your talk now, the answer you're giving, you're talking about recruiting in diverse communities. Can you talk a little bit about how these recruitments happen? And are you particularly targeting some other like newcomers or indigenous innovators or people from underrepresented groups? Like, how do you recruit them?
Yeah, so the council has had targets specifically in areas where we need to achieve labor market representation. Particularly, I would say areas where we're still striving and we still have more work to do is the recruitment of Indigenous persons to the NRC to join the organization. We have made progress, but we still need work to be done to actually close the gap in terms of labor market availability. We also are working very hard to have more persons with disabilities join the NRC as well, and it's an area where we have a continued gap in labor market availability and our workforce. So those are two areas of focus, and we set targets for those, and we're quite intentional about following up and developing ways to reach out and be proactive to actually close these gaps and put a lot of active work into it. But I would say it remains a work in progress. In terms of racialized Canadians, I think what we've seen now is the most recent survey, which is new, has given us a challenge, is that actually as Canada is changing, the composition of the Canadian population is changing, we actually would have been exceeding our labor market availability in the previous survey, but now we have a small gap to close, and I'm actually quite confident we will do so. And quite frankly, this cascades down through the organization, through accountabilities, through to me in terms of our performance, and we have a pretty strong program to monitor what we're doing on an ongoing basis.
Very good. Thank you so much. Canada's innovation economy depends not only on breakthrough discoveries, but also on ensuring that students, apprentices, and technicians, early career researchers can participate in turning those discoveries into real-world solutions. How is the NRC working with colleges, universities, and industry partners to ensure that young Canadians gain the skills and hands-on research experience needed to participate in these emerging sectors, such as AI, advanced manufacturing, clean technologies, and quantum computing?
No, thank you for the question, Madam Chair. I would highlight that the NRC has maintained a very strong program of student recruitment in the neighborhood of 500 students every year, and we will continue to meet that goal even when we're making changes in terms of our operating budget. We are sensitive that the organization can't be cut off from the talent pipeline. We need to continue to renew the workforce. I would also, just as an example, we were talking earlier about AI, the way we're achieving the progress that we're achieving at the council is we're hiring students to come in and work on AI projects because they come in with the skills we need. And this is actually how you get to make progress in AI, is hire younger people who actually are familiar and comfortable. They're learning this. They're actually very enthused. They're happy to join an organization like ours, which offers so many dynamic opportunities. That's actually what we've done. We've hired students to work on a whole range of projects in summer terms on AI advancements that we can actually adopt and become actual systems at the NRC. So just one example where we do that quite intentionally, but students, co-ops, postdoctoral fellows coming to join the NRC, it's a very, very important part of our talent plan. And we're very heartened because there's just a lot of really, really smart, capable people in the country. And, you know, it makes our job challenging because we have to select among them the best to come join NRC.
Thank you for that. And just my final question. How is NRC helping ensure that opportunities in Canada's innovation economy are accessible to young people across the country, and including those from smaller communities and
Sorry for
underrepresented
interrupting. Your
backgrounds?
time is up. Maybe you can come back in the second round. Thank you. And we will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Jonca for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Monsieur Davis, est-ce que le Conseil national de recherche du Canada participe à la...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Davis, does the National Research Council participate in the strategic governance of sectors it itself identifies as priority?
And I'll just use one example to illustrate it. In aerospace, an area of industrial capability that Canada is unique among a very few nations where we can actually achieve what we do industrially in aerospace. NRC would have been involved and still is involved from the very beginning of that industry, and we continue to have very, very deep connections. So, for example, in Quebec, in Aero Montréal, we are at the table, we're participating as a member of the ecosystem. In fact, I think what distinguishes the NRC in particular is that's the seat we take with industries, is we seat it at their table so we know what their needs are, we're meeting their needs, and it's actually something that we consider part of our way of working that I think has actually served us well over many, many decades.
D'accord. Je vais vous donner des exemples exacts. Merci de votre exemple que vous avez nommé. Vous avez
Thank you for your example. I'll give you exact examples. In your strategic plan, you have health and biomanufacturing. So the government created a pharmaceutical and life sciences working group. Is the CRN part of this working group?
Departmental organization, departmental corporation within government. I believe that body is composed of folks from the industry itself to draw in their views. I would consider we have an ability to bring our views directly to Health Canada in fulfilling that role. I don't feel in any way that there's any impediment from us influencing what direction they might take. If they seek our views or we have things to offer, we will certainly do so. I imagine they also reserve the places and such things for people that may not have direct access as an organization inside of government to be able to influence policy. So I think that's
Donc, la
how
réponse,
I'd
M.
play our
Davis,
role.
vous n'êtes pas sur ce conseil-là.
Not in a direct, we don't
D'accord.
take a seat there.
Vous avez un autre.
So your answer, Mr. Davis, is that you are not part.
Le gouvernement.
You also talk about climate change and viability. Is the National Research Council part of the carbon neutrality working group?
The technology areas we work on, the research we work on, the partnerships we have, they're reflective of our capability to deliver solutions. Policy is, I wouldn't say something that we don't have a concern in, but it's obviously not our direct responsibility in policy, but we need to be there to be able to respond to what the country needs and develop the solutions that are required. So perhaps it's just a difference between policy and being a science performing and an organization that's working hands-on in terms of finding solutions.
M. Davis, vous parlez dans vos axes stratégiques également, bien sûr, les
You also talk in your strategic axis digital and quantum technology. The government has a national quantum strategy with an AI advisory board. Is the NRC part of the strategic groups and tables?
At the Council in Quantum for a long time. The NRC was very much involved in the instigation and the work among the ecosystem, which led to the National Quantum Strategy. So if I would say anything, I think we've had a privileged place to shape it, to try to influence it, to draw its importance to government. We're obviously delivering on many components of it. We have significant funding that we're there to deliver into the community. We also have a very strong relationship with Quantum Industry Canada, with all the players in the industry, and actually we feel very integrally playing a role that we should as Canada's national lab in this area.
Il va falloir clarifier ça, M. Davis, parce que c'est pas clair. Là, le Conseil national de recherche affirme être un accélérateur national d'innovation, mais le gouvernement crée des structures consultatives sectorielles, mais vous n'êtes pas présent. Comment vous faites pour développer l'innovation quand vous n'êtes pas présent sur les comités que le gouvernement demande de se pencher pour établir des stratégies?
Sorry for interrupting. There is some interpretation issue. Stop there. Can we please check there is no interpretation? Can you please say a few words?
C'était une bonne question, Madame la Présidente. C'est dommage que vous m'aviez bien interrompu.
Madam Chair, it's unfortunate that you interrupted me.
Well, now, so we'll start the clock. Please go ahead.
Merci beaucoup.
Mr. Davis will continue. So you're working on strategic axes. The government creates boards and councils, but you're not there. Can you explain that?
I'll expand because it relates to my previous answer. We are co-chairing with ISED inside of government, the body that is overseeing in government the strategy. So I think the point is that for external consultation to involve outside organizations and individuals, the government's created a structure. We don't need to replace our role inside government by also being on the outside body. In fact, we would take a place, and in fact, it should be best for the broader community to have a chance to influence policy making and implementation. We don't feel in any way that that would be additive to being very intricately involved inside the system on what is happening with the National Quantum Strategy.
Donc, vous travaillez sur les axes stratégiques, mais dans ces groupes de consultation-là,
So you work on strategic axes, but these advisory groups, you don't consider it important that your expertise be taken into account.
Of the expertise of the council, because we are part of the government. Notwithstanding being a council and a departmental corporation, we are completely integrated with ISED, completely integrated in terms of providing advice, just as any other organization, a department itself would be in the development and actual pursuing of the goals of the strategy. So, I mean, I guess I would certainly emphasize that from the very beginning, which was when this thing was a nascent idea, right to today, we feel completely involved in every way we should be. And then we're delivering as well, because we have a lot of work to do to deploy the funding and work with partners to make this a reality out there beyond the policy, but actually to deliver through our expertise and our connections with industry and with academia.
We will now proceed to MP
Nous
Ho.
continuerons avec le député.
Ho.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You will have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, President Davies, for appearing again today. So the National Research Council is supposed to be Canada's flagship science and industrial research organization. And its mandate should be excellence, commercialization, productivity, and real-world innovation. Yet across the federal research ecosystem, DEI requirements now have become embedded in grants, chairs, hiring, reporting, and institutional compliance. The Canada Research Chairs Program now has a top-down government-mandated equity targets and says universities that miss them by the year 2029, it will lose their chair allocations. So essentially, the federal government is threatening to withdraw research funding to Canada's universities if they don't meet their certain DEI targets by 2029. Federal research programs are also expected applicants to demonstrate DEI commitments in their research, design, and implementation. So President Davies, should the first test for federal research funding be scientific excellence, commercial potential, and national interest?
I would say for our part, excellence in research is fundamental. It's core to our research, our strategy, and it's core to how we conduct the work we do as a science performing organization. The question also is that our workplace should be representative of the country, and also we have to design work that actually represents diverse needs and interests across the country. So I think, inclusion and diversity really comes into how we do our business and the environment we create for people in our business. So, but these two things can happen at the same time.
March 2026 policy, the Canada Research Chairs Program says institutions that miss their 2029 equity targets will lose chair allocations. So it seems to suggest that universities will lose funding for not meeting government-mandated top-down DEI policies, and that universities will lose more research chairs funding for each DEI target that they don't meet. Does that mean levels of federal research funding is now conditioned not only on merit, but also on whether universities hit these DEI targets?
So thank you. Madam Chair, I would say I would defer on a matter of policy for science granting council funding and so forth to the responsible minister. I don't feel in position to comment directly on a question of policy and its implications from other organizations beyond our own activities.
But that is a policy that is in place. It's from the National Research Council website.
It's not a National Research Council policy that you're referring. If it's regarding federal granting councils, research grants from NSERC, SSHRC, CIHR, that's not something over which we have responsibility. So again, I'd say you'd have to ask that of the policy policy department and the minister responsible.
This past year, 37 out of 38 Canadian universities dropped in global rankings. How do you continue justifying the lack of merit-based hiring when Canada's universities are facing a collapse in their reputation?
So Madam Chair, the part of the question that I perhaps would answer is I would say one would have to look in a very nuanced fashion at what's moving in university rankings and do pretty in-depth analysis to figure out what it means. I would say that I feel quite confident to say Canada's reputation, our research universities, is outstanding. I mean, the country has, to its credit, multiple now international awards, significant recognition in areas that are well known, and I think I would leave to experts about how the rankings are composed or what it means to those that have more direct.
Okay, so the
academic
CRC,
research with that.
the research chairs targets 59.9% women or gender equity seeking groups, 22% racialized individuals, 7.5% persons with disabilities, and 4.9% Indigenous peoples. So those are the quotas that determine access to federal research allocations. So I'm just curious, who decided those percentages?
So again, I would not comment on the design and implementation of policies that are not in our care. I don't think that would be responsible. So I appreciate the question. Obviously, I'd have to leave that for.
But you talked when one of the other members asked you questions about, how do we, about DEI, you were able to answer it. So I find it kind of puzzling. So how does the NRC define, so for the purpose of hiring and funding, how does the NRC define a woman?
So I think this is a question when people apply, they will self-identify. And within the scope of the self-identification, obviously we accept that. I mean, there are many topics quite sensitive, like, matters like people that would self-identify as have a disability. This all relates to their lived experience and how they're deciding to fill out a questionnaire, and we accept that.
Time is up for MP Ho, and we will now proceed to MP Deschamps-Ontario for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci d'être ici aujourd'hui avec nous. Votre programme d'aide à la recherche industrielle.
Thank you for being here with us. Your program allows us to accelerate the growth of SMEs, notably through a range of advanced funding services. Sometimes our SMEs don't have capacity for research and development projects, and partnerships are developed, notably with colleges. In my case, there's the Centre Innov of the New Brunswick Community College, which has a bioeconomics program, and partnerships with SMEs through the Industrial Research Aid program, which leads to really interesting activities in my region. So I would like you to explain not only the importance of this program, but also the importance of facilitating collaboration between our SMEs and centers like the Innov Center of the University College of New Brunswick.
There's really two things I would emphasize. One is the program provides contributions to organizations in the case where those organizations can provide a demonstrable value to the clientele of IRAP. And in such cases, there are instances where college, polytechnics, organizations that have a lot of applied research orientation are getting support. Further, we also have a program where we provide active referrals to technology access centers across the country, again, to ensure that the small businesses we work with get the best help, particularly in the system that's been built. And quite frankly, there's a number of institutions that do exactly what has been referred to by the member. And these are actually also the institutions at the community level that have that local community economic development and often will really orient their programs to meet the needs of local business. So we're very pleased to refer, also fund and support this system through our IRAP network, which is across the country. And it's not only in the cities, but across the country so that we meet needs that are very diverse from province to province or region to region.
Justement, ça m'amène à ma prochaine question. Vous le mentionnez, l'importance d'appuyer la recherche.
This leads me to my next question, the importance of supporting research and innovation throughout the country. This also includes our rural communities. We have expertise centers and major centers, but in various more remote regions, we have researchers working on important projects. So how do you make sure when you're funding innovation, how do you make sure that companies and sectors in rural regions are also supported by these programs?
I think through the 76 years of building up IRAP, which I would really say is at the heart of the question that the members raised. I think the most important thing is the people we hire for IRAP come from the places where they go to serve. They're business people, they worked in communities, they worked in business, they kind of understand their clientele and their needs, and then they decide they want to give back. And it's an amazing institutional innovation of itself to bring in these people to support economic development and innovation in particular. And then they also don't sit in an office, they move around. They get out into the country, they go across Canada, and they find many, many projects and businesses that are worth supporting in places that people may not have heard of that are really doing important things in building up businesses and growing. And ambition is not something exclusively defined by being in a given place. Where it's there, we want IRAP to be able to be there and serve them. And that network, I would also say, in the changes we're making, which would be something someone might ask, is will we ensure that that network remains robust and strong across the country? And the answer is yes.
Merci. Et le mois dernier, on a eu la publication du rapport du groupe consultatif sur la création.
Last month, we had the report of the advisory group on francophone communication of scientific results. We're proposing all sorts of steps to reinforce the francophone research sector. And I was wondering, what do you see as the role of your council in the implementation of these recommendations to reinforce the francophone innovation and research sector?
Comme, par exemple,
If I understand correctly, there were many recommendations, such as publishing results in French, etc. I will say a few things. First,
pour le CNRC, on,
by working for the NRC, we have the choice of expressing ourselves in the language of our choice
dans la langue de leur choix,
and of publishing in the language of our choice, but
les traductions de rapports
and due to the integrity of science, translation of scientific reports is very difficult. So they are kept in the original language, and then we translate summaries and abstracts. But aside from that, merci beaucoup, votre temps s'est écoulé. Merci beaucoup. Nous procéderons maintenant au...
Minutes, please go ahead.
Monsieur Davis, le Canada, à travers son gouvernement, dit vouloir...
Mr. Davis, Canada has said that it wants to be a world leader in innovation. Can you explain to me how this is going to happen? There are 400 and over 500 positions were reduced, lots of reductions, reductions in subsidies and contributions, and recentering certain activities. Which country can be a leader in innovation whilst cutting in science and innovation?
I think in this case, there are two goals the government has put in place. One is fiscal responsibility, obviously ensuring at the macro level, the fiscal health of the country. And they've asked large federal organizations such as ours, to make a contribution by coming up with very solid, very clear priorities and making some choices. So I would say I'm comfortable that our strategic plan, as we defined it, can be delivered with the resources that are being made available, even in taking into account some reductions and choices we've had to make. In fact, I would say we've also benefited by the resources that have been added to our ability to deliver for Canada through the Defence Industrial Strategy. As I mentioned, it's close to $1 billion in new funding. And in our case, I think that connection between innovation, defense, and industrial development is very strong.
J'ai compris le discours. La question, c'était quel pays, je vous le rappelle.
My question was just which country can do so? Which is the country that is capable of being a leader in innovation whilst cutting funding?
The state of every country's situation from a budgetary perspective and their outputs. I mean, I think we as NRC have strong capability, and we will continue to offer it to support an overall system and industrial development, also private sector investment, which we would want to see increase.
Okay. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous fournir au comité de ventilation par...
Can you give the committee a situation, what the numbers are for all of the provinces in Quebec and all of the contributions for university, for small businesses size as well.
Impact of locations and where the jobs that would be reduced are located. We have that information and be pleased to provide it. As far as the impact in a programmatic sense, obviously without running the experience of how, say, IRAP will support activities or other programs, our collaboration programs, we can't really predict exactly how that will influence particularly regional distribution. But as for our workforce, we do know where those jobs are affected and can provide that information.
Thank you. Time is up, and we will now proceed to MP Mahal for 5 minutes. MP Mahal, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for being here. The government talks a lot about dual-use technology, but without a clear definition, almost anything can be labeled as dual-use. So I want to start my question with President Davis. That what is the definition as per National Research Council? How they determine what project actually supports national defense needs?
So thank you for the question. I think the first point is what the Department of National Defense and the Canadian Armed Forces actually would have an interest in supporting or acquiring is their business, and that's a strong signal, and actually that's what defines what would be used in the context for defense for Canada, and we take that quite seriously. Dual use is a question of whether that product, service, technology could have a civilian use as well. And of course that's defined by the market space. It's also defined on whether that product could be actually provided to a defense purpose and then be made available under appropriate regulations for other markets. And there are many cases where both can happen, and I actually think from a commercial point of view, the market you want to see for these companies to really be strong and robust over time needs to have, to the extent it can, a civilian and dual purpose. And I think a good example is our aerospace industry, which has had a very strong focus on civilian, now has an opportunity to move into defense, which actually provides a strong, robust support for an industry that's very hard to realize technology programs in. Having defense as an anchor in it actually will reinforce the strength of that industry, I imagine, in Canada.
But I believe, despite the explanation that you gave, I believe it would obviously be beneficial for the Canadians and for the people at large to know if there are concrete definitions to figure out what the criteria are, how the government is going to define what dual use is, what projects are going to be used in national defense. But I'll move to my next question. How many National Research Council supported defense technologies have been procured or deployed by Canadian Armed Forces thus far?
So, Madam Chair, I couldn't answer with a single number without having undertaken some significant work to get a solid answer. We have many projects that support the Canadian Armed Forces in D&D, many over decades and decades.
And I appreciate that you won't have a list of the projects. Can you name 5 of the items that have been so far deployed by or been given to the Canadian Armed Forces?
So if it's a question of the council working on a project for the Canadian Armed Forces and having realized the objectives of the project, there are many. I would give you one example, but could give you further examples, and happy to provide those to the committee. In fact, one of the projects we just most recently awarded an international award is autonomous flight of helicopter in multi-use airspace. We won the top international award for the technology work we did. That's a project that was supported by either DRDC or and so that would have many examples. I could give you a very long list of such projects where we've advanced technology.
Has that been deployed by the Canadian Armed Force as of now?
So I would say that autonomy in that form, in a helicopter flying in airspace that's very active, is something that's being deployed and tested in a robust way. And at some point, these technologies obviously will become in use, but that's why they have them with us, because we actually have to ensure they're robust and actually will deliver. Aerospace technology doesn't arrive in a matter of months. It's something that has to be developed to a very high standard, to be very robust, to be able to be deployed in the field. So that's
I'm
kind of
running
what
out of
our
time,
expertise
so let
is.
me ask a final question before the bell rings. If a project receives NCR support but never reaches Department of National Defense, Procurement, or Canadian Armed Forces operational use, does the NRC consider that as a success or as a failure?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. I think pursuing very ambitious technology brings itself a reward. It advances the skills and capability of our teams. In many cases, we can actually develop potentially patentable technologies in the course of doing that. Whether it's ultimately taken up and put into use is not necessarily the sole way you define success. I actually think there's a lot that's gained in the learning process of attempting things that are very challenging. In fact, most things that are very challenging can have a high failure rate just by the consequence of this is really complex stuff that we're trying to do. So yes, there's a benefit.
Time is up for MP Mahal. We will now proceed to MP McKelvey for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, that question leads really well into what I wanted to ask. The committee's talked a lot about modernizing federal research and about a shift towards more mission-driven, mission-oriented research. And, you know, I'm a big fan of that because I do think sometimes we should be doing less better. We should be identifying strengths, and we should certainly be identifying priorities, especially as we're embarking on this new venture around nation building and also with some of the work that we're doing around defense. So my question really is, what do you see as some of those strengths of the National Research Council that you can really build upon? And what should some of these missions maybe be? And this is a question I love to ask academics at the dinner table. And you get a very wide range of ideas and certain things along, for example, quantum computing. But what do you want to use the quantum computer for? And a great example is a secure transmission across the country from one end to the other. You know, something that Canada has always been known for is communications. You know, what do we want that computer for as an example? Or another example being, well, you know, Canada is a leader in biotechnology and can be a leader in the new emerging field of synthetic biology. And an example of, okay, well, what would you want to use those technologies for? And a great example being, you know, mRNA technologies for autoimmune diseases, of which in some cases Canadians have some of the highest rates, for example, multiple sclerosis. So my question really is, what do you think some of these missions are that we should be undertaking? How is the National Research Council at the forefront and ready to lead? And how can you work better with the academic community and others to get there?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So first thing I would want to share with the committee is that the NRC established challenge programs somewhere around 7-8 years ago, very much to do exactly what you've said, which is to say the NRC and its expertise needs to be combined with the best expertise out the NRC and to actually define program areas that are missions for the country and pursue them over 7 years, long-term work with focus and intention to get to outcomes. Those programs are approved as well by our minister to give them the sense that we're really aiming for things that the country needs and is relevant. So I'll give you an example related very much to what you said. Our new program we're launching, it's underway now, is quantum internetworking. It's a new challenge program. It's been able to be supported as well as a consequence of the support of the Defense Industrial Strategy. But it's to do exactly what has been mentioned, which is design all of the technology layer needed to actually move a quantum state across long distances and build essentially quantum networks for the future. Canada has everything from an ingredients point of view. We need to realize that, but we need to tie it together, and that's what that program's intention is to do. And that's why it's 7 years. It's why it's not just us. It's us with academics and companies all working together. So I think that's been built into the NRC's toolbox over the last decade of change and reform at NRC, and I think it puts us in the exact right role. We now can deliver this sort of thing for Canada in a unique way. So thank you for the question, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So something that is being undertaken right now is the Defense Industrial Strategy and Borealis, better looking to connect defense with the academic community, with other government departments, and I believe also with yourselves. So my question is, how are you engaged in Borealis? And in particular, what role are you playing in the new DISHs, I guess, the Defense Innovation Secure Hubs?
Thank you for the question. We have put staff into the Joint Project Office that's supporting the development of Borealis. So right at the beginning, the conceptual stage of how Borealis is going to achieve its objectives, we've made ourselves part of it. We need to do that because we're the largest federal research and development organization, and I think we want to make sure everything we have available can support the goals that are part of the government's plan for Borealis. Second, I think as investments are made and choices are made as to the DISH portfolio, you will see the NRC will work very closely with whoever it is that's chosen, particularly if it's, ecosystem or academic organizations. And in fact, I would hope we would have prior existing relationships that are very strong. And in fact, the programming I talked about in terms of challenge programming has really brought us a lot closer to one another. So we're well positioned to deliver. I think the important distinction is we are a capability of talented people. We also have a connection to small, medium-sized businesses that's very robust, almost not something you can replicate. And we're offering those capabilities and assets to what the government's trying to achieve with Borealis. So I think we're there, and we'll obviously have further decisions made on how it'll be structured and how it'll work, and we'll play a part in that to the extent that we can be useful.
And my last question, no time. Time's up.
The time is up, and we will now start our third round with MP Holman for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses that are here today. Mr. Davies, it has been reported that Canada has entered a recession. This is quite a concern for me because the London region, including London Fanshawe, the riding I represent, has a 9.2% unemployment rate, the highest in Canada. With that, economists have reportedly warned about Canada's long-standing productivity challenges. Given that the NRC's mandate includes supporting innovation and commercialization, how do you measure whether NRC investments are actually improving Canada's economic competitiveness and productivity?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. So I think if we're talking about the economy, the most important role for the NRC that's very direct that we can measure is the support we provide to small, medium-sized businesses. I mentioned that in my opening comments, the 10,000 companies we help every year. The question is what happens to them when they receive their help? Well, how do they follow up? We have strong KPIs to track what goes on. We have a 33% growth rate of the companies we work with. Over the last year, a 13% growth of employment. That is an area that has recently trended down. I think that reflects some of the uncertainties, the economic questions that you've raised, and essentially companies working on internal work but not necessarily expanding their workforce. But it's an area where we want to see actually opportunity at the growth and at the employment level with the companies we work with, and we track it very closely. And in fact, you can look at it over a long period of time and see what it is that IREP achieves. The other statistic is important is that the companies that IREP supports are more or less 80% of the companies that raise the greatest equity subsequent even to working with us. So the question is, are we choosing wisely who to work with? I believe we have pretty strong evidence they do. Those companies, as they scale and they become more significant and they add more employment and they become real exporters for Canada, we have to build from small businesses to get there. Those are the companies that will move the needle on productivity, I think, that we're looking for in the long run. So we kind of have to focus, though, in the day-to-day dealing with those companies and doing our job well, deploying the funds we have. Whether that all adds up at the global level to high productivity, I think we're contributing, but there's a lot of other things that have to go well.
Can you point to specific examples where NRC-supported research has translated a measurable economic growth, private sector investment, or job creation here in Canada?
Madam Chair, I think the key data are some of the things I've said to this point. I would also say IRAP's economic analysis, which they've done, validates that we get about a $5 return on every dollar that's invested through the program. Supports 13,000 jobs. And I don't want to quote specific companies, but I think pretty much any company that 10 years ago you didn't know who they were and now you know who they were, likely, almost in most cases, they've worked with IRAP in the very early stage when really the support they received was pivotal to whether they could proceed or not. So in some cases, the question is, if they couldn't have turned to us at a stage where it's the highest risk, where people stepping in to invest is very risky, I think it's a program that does a lot to set ourselves up to have opportunity to grow. There's a whole question about what you need to sustain capital, to sustain the growth process, to have the right support for that and the right system. Questions that you could ask other folks that could come before the committee. I think the question is IREP's very much focused on doing its job well as part of this overall system to create an opportunity to grow from, you know, very small firms and actually see them make real gains in the time they work with us.
Canada is often recognized for world-class research, yet we frequently struggle to turn that research into Canadian companies, Canadian intellectual property, and Canadian jobs. How much NRC-supported research ultimately remains in Canada as economic activity rather than being commercialized or acquired elsewhere?
So other KPIs that the council tracks relate to our contribution to intellectual property, and when work we do, that we contribute to, that we create in our labs, adds to Canada's overall toolbox. We put around 200 new patents in place every year. We have 1,800 patents in our portfolio, over 500 which are actively licensed. Our trends of who we're licensing with is reflecting more Canadian institutions and Canadian licensing, and we're pretty much 80% of it will be placed in a Canadian business that can take the work we do and actually make something of it in our country. So we as a research performer and actually holding IP and actually developing IP for Canada contributes to the kinds of issues that have been raised in the question. Thank you.
For MP Holman, we will now proceed to MP Rana for 5 minutes. Please go ahead, MP Rana.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all the witnesses for your valuable time. Being a Hamiltonian, I am really interested and I would love to know about the National Research Council role playing with the McMaster University to establish Southern Ontario Innovation Hub in Hamilton, which is the home of Canada's largest steel industry.
Question. So the opportunity to support the change underway in manufacturing technologies for automotive is significant for Canada. It means shifting towards electrification as the main, energy source, and that's actually a change to the entire vehicle. We recognize the very significant strength of McMaster in this area. Very, very deep research and connectivity, particularly with large automotive companies, and a lot of very solid research performance that we can measure. We decided we would create a collaboration center with McMaster to take our strengths and their strength and combine them. And we fit well with them in that I think our goal is to support the tier 1, 2, 3 suppliers in the supply chain that also need to pivot and see their technologies advance as part of this change in electrification for transportation. Working with McMaster along side by side, I think we can accomplish more. We can also optimize. We can bring our equipment into their facility. They have their equipment there, and we can actually use what CFI has supported over the years and what the NRC has and actually make it work together. And we kind of owe it to the country that these things are connected so we can have a bigger impact. So we're quite excited about the opportunity to work with McMaster very closely, and they're a very strong player in the field.
Thank you, and I'm pretty sure my colleague from Southern Ontario, Mr. Baldanelli, will be interested too, to knowing that our traditional heavy steel industry, how NRC playing a role to shift it towards advanced manufacturing and automation.
Thank you for the question. So NRC would have contributions in terms of our research work in advanced manufacturing, automation, robotics, things of this nature. I also think I would refer in this question to NRCan, which has a lab in McMaster, CanMet Lab, which has a very, very integral role with the steel making industry in the region. And so whatever NRCan would need from us and to support programs they're delivering to the steel sector, we're there to support that. But I think we also sort of divide this space in a way that they've built up a lot of competency and research strengths over the years, and we wouldn't want to replicate it. We just want to find out where we can be additive to what they're already doing because they have a very significant presence. Us being in McMaster also in the new Southern Ontario Innovation Hub, I think will be very good to support synergies between ourselves and NRCan in this regard as well. Particularly as we're trying to address the needs for automotive sector, which is where we're very much focused.
Thank you. And government committed $962 million over 8 years to renew NRC facilities. So how much have been spent and which facilities have been renewed and what new research capacity has been unlocked?
Thank you very much for the question. I can report that at the moment, and this would be funding related to the Defense Industrial Strategy as well as the renewal of NRC facilities, we have close to $1.2 billion of capital renew projects underway right now. Last fiscal year, we delivered 256% more procurement than we did for these projects than we did the year before. The NRC is in a building phase that it hasn't had in its history. We're delivering at speed. We have a large portfolio of projects underway. Many of those are still in flight. I could provide information on the list of projects. We do publish this, so you can find it kind of for Canadians to look on our website, what are the areas we're investing in, but it's all of our facilities. So here just at the Ottawa Airport, renewing our wind tunnel, we're renewing our facilities for advanced manufacturing, we're renewing our biotechnology facilities. Across the council, it's actually a very significant time to build.
Thank you. NRC launched 74 international projects and co-chaired Eureka. 15 seconds left. The first time non-European country has led this position. So how do those partnerships translate into concrete long-term benefits for Canadian companies and workers?
Thank you very much. Yes, us co-chairing Eureka with Germany was the first time a non-European country had co-chaired, first co-chair. This is the largest public innovation network on the planet. So it means our SMEs work with SMEs that are part of the European countries and also beyond. They work together. What they're doing is they're actually combining their strength and then they grow together. It's a big, big win for our SMEs.
Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Juncker for 2.5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Davis, est-ce que vous avez eu une rencontre avec la ministre de l'Industrie?
Did you meet with the Minister of Industry since she was appointed in 2025?
Of events, ministers announced matters that relate to the council.
Donc,
yes.
Quel était le sujet des discussions?
And what did you discuss?
Between myself and the minister, so part of my role is supporting her, and this discretion one has to have, of course, as an official supporting your minister is quite appropriate. I wouldn't reveal the details of our discussions.
Okay. Donc, vous êtes payé avec des fonds publics, mais les conseils.
So you're paid with public funds, but the advice that you give, that's confidential. That's what you're saying?
Advice, support for a minister. We also do that in.
Bells are ringing for a vote has been called, so I need a unanimous consent from the members if they would like us to continue for another 20 minutes. Is everyone okay with that? Okay.
Gives us 10 minutes to get upstairs.
Yeah. The bells have just started, so it will be 30 minutes bells. Yeah, okay. So we will go for 20 more minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead, MP Blanchet-Juncker.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. C'est une drôle de coïncidence. Hein? C'est toujours quand c'est moi.
Thanks. It's a coincidence. I always get interrupted when it's my turn. But so, Mr. Davies, I understand that your conversations are confidential, but so did you discuss the strategic plan?
Discussions with the minister that I've had have been focused on specific files that are quite important. I would say in one case, the discussion now is a matter where we see publicly our plan to move forward with the Canadian Photonics Fabrication Centre. So as the minister took on her responsibilities, I was there to explain what we're doing and obviously potential plans, but I won't go beyond that, sharing the nature of our discussion.
Que je tente d'élucider, je vais avoir besoin de votre aide là-dessus.
I'm going to need your help. The government says that it wants to increase its sovereignty, its economic sovereignty, or industrial and technical sovereignty. But I'm trying to understand, how do we reinforce that by reducing the staff of the biggest research organization in Canada?
the important job for us is to deliver to the goal that's been described, which is to maximize opportunity in Canada to take our best ideas and see them realized.
Okay.
Everything we'll do will be focused on that. I would say also in making choices about specific programs, some areas of research, we've made strategic decisions on areas which we think we have the biggest impact. So I think we can live with restraint, make decisions that make sense, but also still contribute at a large scale. And in some cases, some smaller programs we may have retained, we've discontinued, but I think we've made choices that relate to the goal of building up industrial development because we have used our strategic plan to guide our process.
Thank you. And time is up for MP Blanchet-Jonca.
J'ai encore 25 secondes, moi, Madame la Présidente, avec la coupure.
Oh, I still have 25 seconds, I think.
We restarted the clock after we talked about the belt, so yeah, okay, go ahead, like if you.
Merci.
20 seconds.
Donc, Monsieur Davis, moi, je veux savoir, là,
Mr. Davies, I want to know what areas of research received more or would have received more resources if the government hadn't required cuts. What would you have done that you wouldn't be able to do now?
Plan which preceded the approach of the government to seek reductions through the comprehensive expenditure review, it stands intact before and it stands intact after. In fact, it guided decisions we made. In a research organization, a long-term research organization, you have many areas where researchers will build up areas of expertise.
Blanchet-Jonca.
Une réponse par écrit, Madame la
Quickly,
Présidente.
if you can do it like 4-5 seconds, quick wrap.
And what we have to do is then make choices among areas that will retain and that will be maintained and areas that have a strong relationship with our strategy. And I think we did so with integrity. We shared that. But I think anything we did was a level where we had excellence, but whether it was relevant
Yeah,
to the
thank
plan
you.
was what
Madame
we
la
made
Présidente, juste
choices.
lui demander une réponse par écrit parce que je les ai lus, les plans stratégiques.
I would like a written organization. I read the plans, but it doesn't say what's going to be impacted.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Ao for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Because of my background in higher education field, so I am concerned about the declining ranking of Canadian universities internationally. So that's why some questions on those issues. My first question is, now it's being explained that it's not because our universities are doing poorly. It's our competitors who are doing better and faster than us in terms of investing in research and development. So do you have any data? How do we compare our investment in university research to our competitors, such as South Korea, China, Singapore, and Germany?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair, through you. I would refer the member's question to ISED. I think it would be best placed to provide very robust information comparing Canadian support for research and development in all forms. That's their job. They're responsible for science policy. It's not something that we have a direct responsibility for. I appreciate the question all the same, but it'd be best addressed to them.
Yeah, but do you agree that as a country, we fall behind in terms of research and development in comparison to other countries?
I think the statistics that I've been familiar with in the various roles I've had at a period of time, I did work in science policy. Obviously, Canada's role in research and development overall, the level of research and development comparatively, has been lower in some cases than comparator countries. Public research and development support has been strong. Higher education research and development support has been very strong on a per capita basis in Canada for many decades. That's why we have great universities today. I think there's also a question as to private research and development, so that research and development undertaken by businesses. Unfortunately, the trend has been declining over the years. Obviously, that's something that would be concerning when it comes to long-term industrial development and growth relative to our competitors. So I think there's a lot in those trends what we have to look at quite seriously, take seriously, and figure out what we do to respond. I think there's been some recent movement in research and development in the private sector in the most recent statistics, but again, it's not something I'm directly following, so I'd refer you to Statistics Canada or ISED to get more information on it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's important
Now,
area.
according to my research, South Korea invests about 5% of the GDP in research and development, Germany 3.1%, China 2.6%, Singapore 2.1%, and Canada is only 1.7%. So we are actually behind the other countries. Now, and because of that, we have insufficient investment in research and development, and it's been a fact that increasingly our universities have to rely on foreign sponsorship or investment in our research. And the concern is that in many cases, those results, the benefits of the research will go to the foreign countries or the sponsors overseas. And in that case, actually, we are sponsoring our competitors because, the results of the benefits would accelerate
15
their
seconds left.
research.
15-second answer.
I think building up industrial capability, capacity, private sector research and development, being able to anchor the ability of our talent and our ideas to be followed up on in Canada is an important goal. And there's lots of work to do, I think, to achieve that objective, but it is important.
Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Ellison for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, just a point of order with regards to the schedule because of the impending vote that we will leave on shortly. By the time we come back and vote, you still have to give a 10-minute period of grace for a return. It will probably be after 1 o'clock. So what is the intention of the committee, or the will of the committee? Is it to suspend, come back, or is it the intent to just end the meeting and adjourn at 1 p.m.?
I think by the time the votes happen, we have 22 more minutes for the votes to start. By the time vote starts and finish, I don't think so we will be able to start the meeting before 1, so we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, and we will proceed with MP Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to all the witnesses that have come. And Mr. Davies, as a representative of the NRC, on a completely unrelated note to anything, I do miss that daily noon chime that you used to broadcast. So, but on a more serious note, my background is medicine, particularly emergency medicine. I practiced that for 25 years. I do know that when we talk about dual-use technology, there has been a lot of technology invented, basically both ways in the civilian research sector that has benefited military in regards to medicine and biosciences, and a much military techniques and research. Much of we know about management of trauma is research that was brought up during the practices of the Vietnam War. And we, to this day, we operate in the emergency room with many of those principles. So with this newest thrust on developing dual-use technology, how much of this is in regard to the biomedical sciences with, potential for use in fields of medicine?
Thank you for the question. And I just say NRC's history in this regard is actually quite strong. I mean, if you think about the role that the NRC played in World War II in military matters, that extended subsequently to technologies like stapling for surgery. These are things that cross over, right, from military battlefield to actually then become something that becomes generally diffused as a part of our health system. Today's version of that is equally important, though. Equally important, right? What are we doing now? So I'd give a couple examples. So in the Defense Industrial Strategy, we have a new challenge program that's been launched on biomedical countermeasures. What this means is the forces needing us to rapidly respond with countermeasures to threats they may face in the field. That same rapid response translates to pandemic response and meeting needs for Canada. So we're happy that we've had a strong signal from the Surgeon General of the Canadian Armed Forces to work closely with us to actually support programs in the biomedical area. Second area is diagnostic medicine in the field. So as an emergency doctor, sepsis is a very big concern in an emergency room. NRC has technology that's now been deployed with academic partners where we've been able to identify sepsis on a much faster timescale that's relevant to be able to do something with using remote diagnostics, microfluidics technology. So the opportunities for military deployment in remote of this kind of rapid deployed lab on a chip microfluidic technology also can relate to things we need in our civilian emergency rooms to support our healthcare needs. So we think the opportunity is actually quite significant in that area to use this agenda to advance things that will help in the healthcare system.
Thank you. Yeah, and that I did not know was being developed, and that is valuable. We do know actually now in sepsis, which often identifies subtly in the emergency department, mortality goes up with every hour that you delay diagnosis and treatment. So that does sound very valuable. When we talk about issues of also responses to potential terrorist threats. They're small, but the results can be, the chances are small, but the of these chemical, nuclear, biologic terrorism threats. Is there ongoing research right now as part of the strategy for mitigating these kinds of threats?
So thank you for the question. The NRC has very strong expertise in field deployable nanosensors, which are aimed very much at detecting this kind of biohazard in very, very small amounts that would be deployed, obviously, with the armed forces if they're potentially concerned about risk. That also is something that would be deployed in civilian purposes to protect populations. So yes, we have experts in that, and I actually think that's another area that can continue to be advanced. Particular areas we're making significant investments in defense will have a benefit more generally as well. So yes, we have that kind of work going on at the council.
Okay, thank you. That's very useful. How much more time do I have, Madam Chair?
15 seconds.
Yeah. At that, I think I will just thank the witnesses for their answers, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. And we will now proceed to MP Baldinelli for 2.5 minutes, and then we will end the panel with Liberals for 2.5 minutes. So MP
Thank you, Madam
Baldinelli.
Chair, and thank you. So quickly, according to the National Research Council Act, the mandate of the NRC includes using its powers to, under C7, researches the objects of which is to improve conditions in agriculture. So over the past several weeks, the Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food has heard from researchers, industry leaders, community reps, and even provincial governments, all delivering the same urgent message that closing our agricultural research and development centers and experimental farm sites will cause long-term or irreversible damage to Canada's agricultural research capacity, food security, and food production. So I just was wondering, did the government ever consult NRC on this, and what was your reaction to the closures of these sites?
So, Madam Chair, through you, I would share through you that the NRC has a research center in Saskatoon that is very, very strongly focused on design, crop design. The NRC's history in agriculture goes back to supporting the invention of canola, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We still see this as a key role. It's part of our strategy going forward to support agri-food in the area of crop design, also remote food systems, the protein agriculture, which is underway. We've supported that through a challenge programming after the last number of years. It's a very high priority for NRC to stay focused on the agri-food economy as a big part of Canada's contribution to feeding the world, which we think is a very important thing. And of course, it's in our strategy, and we've maintained our
So thank you for
support
what
that
you're
research
doing in
center.
that regard, but what are your thoughts on the government's closure of these sites?
I would, through you, Chair, restrain my comments to what NRC is doing. And of course, those institutions that have made decisions would come and provide information in their own respect of how they made choices. And I think those are questions better addressed to them. Thank you.
Madam Chair, how much time?
30 seconds.
Now, quickly, with regards to the mandate as well, under Section 5, it talks, and C, it talks about the standardization and certification of the scientific and technical apparatus and instruments of government. So does that include things such as the National Building Code? Is that under the purview of the National Research Council?
So the NRC serves as the secretariat for the code system to create the national code, which is then put into place from a legal point of view in provinces and territories who have a responsibility to enact the
Now,
regulations.
how does that?
Time is up, MP Baltinelli.
I just want to ask
Yes.
if you could provide to the committee, like how the process works. Is there committees, provincial committees, all feed in? Is there union representatives? Who sits on those boards? If you could share that, that'd be awesome.
Thank you. We will now end this panel with MP Rana for 2.5 minutes. MP Rana, please go.
Thank you, Madam Chair, again. Dr. Davis, government's committed $100 million over 5 years for NRC's AI program, and over 325 projects launched in the first year alone. So what does that look like for small and medium-sized businesses on the ground?
So thank you for the question. The AI Assist initiative, which again is part of the IRAP offering, has been underway. We've been able to support companies that fit our profile to advance very significant technology development of AI firms. I mean, part building an industry with advanced capability in AI in many areas, and we've been able to see many companies through their development cycle with the really significant support. And I think now that there's obviously, as of today, an AI strategy with a broader set of initiatives, I think that's positioned a number of these small, medium-sized businesses, of course, to participate well in a broader strategy that the government's now launched. So, and I think it's made best use of IRAP's connections across the country because we have a very strong idea, of course, of who could benefit from this support, and then we've been able to deploy that funding to very good effect with the firms we work with.
NRC results report flags talent retention as a key risk, competing directly with both private sector and universities. So what has the NRC done, and what can be more done by federal government to keep Canadian researchers and their IPs from going elsewhere out of the country?
Thank you. So yes, our goal is to hire the best people we can. I think we also have to find the profile of the people that would want to work in our environment. If you want to work on research, be full-time, committed and focused on that, beyond your academic work, we offer a great environment. Whether we will provide the kind of compensation you'll get if you join a startup that's going to grow, we might not compete on that basis, but I think if you want to work on public good and long-term in research and see benefit to your country, we're the perfect place to go. And I think we've seen it where people we've hired, obviously some of them go and join a startup. That's good. If they contribute to our country, that's fine. In fact, that kind of fluidity between NRC and startups and the ecosystem, that's something we would want to encourage. But we always have to ensure our workplace is outstanding. So when you look at what our people think about working at NRC, whether we support them, whether it's a well-run organization, if we do that well, our mandate's very exciting and hopefully they're going to stay with us. But we have to really focus as management on making sure our workplace is world-class.
Thank you very much for your valuable time. And
With that, I really want to, on behalf of all the members of this committee, really want to thank you for appearing before the committee and the important work you are doing. And is it the will of the committee to adjourn the meeting? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Excellent timing.